After Ryu successfully aids Rora in rescuing her sister Sarah, he finds himself unexpectedly hailed as their new master. However, amidst the intrusive thoughts flooding his mind, Ryu remains steadfast in his mission. He must confront the bandit responsible for the chaos. Armed with a lethal sword, Ryu approaches the miscreant, sending shivers down the goon's spine. The villain pleads for mercy, attempting to bribe Ryu with promises of wealth and even companionship as charming as Sarah and Rora. As the bandit's offer transforms into a menacing threat, he reveals the formidable size of the Red Moon Bandits, a gang boasting 100 members. Furthermore, he discloses their affiliation with the Zaruta army, cautioning Ryu against taking any reckless actions. Unfazed, Ryu, a man of reason, ridicules the bandit for his lack of foresight. He argues that Zaruta would only identify him as the perpetrator if the bandit survives this encounter. Understanding the importance of maintaining his secret identity, Ryu refuses to let the bandit escape alive. He emphasizes that the dead cannot communicate with their masters, rendering any potential revelation moot. In a final attempt to evoke sympathy, the bandit mentions having a daughter. However, Ryu remains unmoved by such emotional appeals and swiftly ends the bandit's life with a decisive stroke of his sword. Witnessing Ryu's ruthless side leaves both Sarah and Rora somewhat shocked, prompting Ryu to feel a twinge of self-consciousness. In an attempt to gauge their reaction, he asks the newly rescued sisters if they have any issues with his approach to justice. Sarah and Rora suggest that Ryu could have extracted more information from the bandit, but Ryu dismisses their concerns. He points out that the bandit might have been bluffing to instill fear, urging them not to believe everything they hear. Expressing his satisfaction at reuniting Sarah and Rora, Ryu receives gratitude for his efforts. However, the sisters, now referring to him as master due to a recently formed blood oath, leave Ryu both incredulous and delighted. Sarah, inspired by her sister, also requests a blood oath with Ryu. Rora, enthusiastic about the idea, urges Ryu to do the same with her sister. Overwhelmed, Ryu needs a moment to collect himself, resisting the intrusive thoughts that threaten to consume him. In an effort to maintain composure, Ryu requests Rora to refrain from addressing him as master and emphasizes that the girls need not serve him. However, this declaration only upsets Sarah and Rora, as they interpret it as Ryu disliking them. Struggling with the delicate situation, Ryu attempts to reassure and calm the girls. Rora, confused by his words, prompts Ryu to change the topic. Seizing the opportunity, he inquires about their previous master, but Rora asserts that she no longer serves him. With Rora now free from her previous contract and committed to obeying only Ryu, the situation is different for Sarah. She remains bound by her old master's curse, unable to move until Ryu forms a blood oath with her. Recognizing that Sarah's mobility hinges on the blood oath ritual, Ryu agrees to it but insists on getting an explanation about the unfolding events. The trio decides to return to the carriage before heading to the town of Aru to gather any useful materials that may have been left behind. To their surprise, they discover another individual at the carriage, a rather large person with menacing eyes. He greets Rora and Sarah by name, expressing happiness at seeing them in good condition. This man turns out to be their previous master, who, strangely enough, seems more concerned about the possibility of the bandits mistreating his slaves. He emphasizes that the girls' value would diminish if they were forced into lewd activities. The fat man's shady behavior irks Rora, leading her to take matters into her own hands. Unable to tolerate his attitude, she delivers a resounding slap to the man, asserting her newfound autonomy and signaling that she will not tolerate mistreatment any longer. The fat man is taken aback by Rora's bold behavior, and things escalate as she threatens to stab him if he approaches any closer. Angered by her defiance, the fat man responds with a barrage of hateful insults towards the girls. In an attempt to clarify the situation, he proudly reveals to Ryu that he is their master, but Rora corrects him, asserting that he used to be their master. Ryu, sensing the animosity between the fat man and the girls, inquires if he is their enemy. Rora clarifies that he was never their ally. Accepting the message, Ryu approaches the fat man, advising him to leave and not act foolishly. However, The fat man interprets Ryu's words as an attempt to play the hero and expresses a disturbing interest in Ryu's body, suggesting using him as a labor slave. Unyielding, Ryu swiftly sends a chakra flying into the fat man's head, poised to deliver more strikes. Before Ryu can proceed, Sarah and Rora, fueled by a deep-seated rage, charge at the fat man, mercilessly stabbing him. Their brutality continues until the fat man collapses to the ground, lifeless and devoid of any remaining vitality. Ryu, astonished by the intensity of the girls' hatred, begins to grasp the unspeakable acts they endured during their time as slaves. Although he harbors numerous questions, Ryu decides to defer them until they reach the town of Aru. The girls agree to share their stories with him, but the sadness in their eyes already conveys a multitude of tales. Ryu, having liberated both Rora and Sarah, believes his mission to save the girls was a success. Little does he know, he's unwittingly entangled himself in a larger predicament by making them his new slaves. Finding refuge in an inn, the trio decides to freshen up, and the girls take a quick bath to cleanse their figures. Apologizing for the delay, they explain to Ryu that slaves can't dine at the same table as their master. Despite their attire, both Sarah and Rora in towels, they express concern about maintaining propriety, aware that one misstep could reveal more than Ryu anticipated. Our hero, unfazed by the situation, invites them to sit down for a meal together, unaware of the complex dynamics at play. Sarah and Rora stand before Ryu, leaving him uncertain about how to handle having two unclothed slave girls in front of him. Just as he feels the urge to act, Ryu notices a peculiar look in the girl's eyes. Recalling that slaves must obey their master's commands, he confirms this with both Rora and Sarah. Deciding to exercise his authority, Ryu directs them to sit down and join him for dinner, surprising the girls with his unexpected kindness. Reflecting on the times he shared meals with his sensei and Asuka back on Earth, Ryu understands the value of company during meals. The girls comply with their master's orders, dressing themselves before joining him at the table. The atmosphere is a bit awkward, and Ryu struggles to find the right words to say. Realizing the need for clarification, he engages in a conversation with the girls. As the discussion unfolds, Ryu learns that Rora and Sarah are now his battle slaves, possessing magical abilities. Grateful for the added protection, Ryu also discovers that their powers are usually sealed to prevent rebellion. The girls can only unleash their abilities with Ryu's explicit permission, establishing a new dynamic in their relationship. However, Ryu struggles to comprehend the rationale behind sealing a slave's powers, especially when Rora managed to form a blood oath with him without her master's presence. He questions the effectiveness of restricting a slave's abilities if they can easily change masters at will. Sarah attempts to explain this to Ryu, but Rora intervenes, urging her to take it easy. In an effort to be transparent, Rora decides to disclose their true identities, unveiling that her real name is Rora Malfist. The Malfist family has a history of serving as royal knights for the kingdom located near the west coast of the central continent, establishing both Rora and Sarah as nobles. As Ryu absorbs this revelation, the pieces start to fall into place. The girls request Ryu to keep their noble status a secret, and Rora decides to take him back to a significant moment in their past through a flashback from 5 years ago. The kingdom Rora served fell into chaos due to war, and after enduring numerous hardships, she and Sarah sought refuge by escaping on a boat. Unfortunately, their own guard betrayed them, selling the sisters to a slave trader named Azosu, the same portly man they encountered earlier. Rora becomes visibly emotional, expressing her deep upset over the betrayal and blaming humans for succumbing to temptation. In a poignant moment, the girls share the harsh reality of their past with Ryu, highlighting the challenges they faced and the subsequent enslavement that followed. As they navigate these revelations, Ryu himself grapples with internal struggles, fighting against the temptation to exploit his newfound control over the sisters. Our hero, Ryu, provides a rational perspective to Rora, suggesting that the guard might have betrayed them to save his own life, leaving them with little recourse. To Ryu's surprise, Rora and Sarah reveal that they learned about battle slaves from Azosu before taking him down. Furthermore, the ability to form blood oaths was a skill their father had taught them as children, anticipating its utility in the future. As Ryu ponders the significance of this revelation, he deduces that the girl's father had indeed prepared them for the possibility of enslavement and had hoped they would encounter the right person to help them escape. Realizing that he is that person, Ryu shares his findings with the girls, who are astonished by his intelligence. They declare Ryu to be the man they've been waiting for their entire lives. In a generous gesture, Ryu offers to set the girls free, even providing them with the money Azosu had on him, enough for them to start anew. However, Rora and Sarah express a profound loyalty to their newfound master, willing to sacrifice even their lives for him, grateful for his protection against the bandits when he was alone. Unimpressed, Ryu informs them that he has his own challenges to confront, setting the stage for further complexities in their unfolding journey. Ryu, burdened by the additional stress of having two slave girls with him, faces a moment of revelation when Rora brings up an intriguing question. She asks if his concerns stem from the fact that he is a boy from another world. Shocked by this unexpected insight, Ryu maintains a neutral pose, careful not to reveal too much. Sarah and Rora point out his extraordinary strength but note his lack of knowledge about magic or blood oaths. Suspecting something unusual when he easily became their master, the girls now have confirmation of Ryu's origin. Feeling a sense of trust from the girls, Ryu finally admits that he is indeed from another world and was brought here by Gaietsu. He's been on the run since, and fortunately, nobody recognizes his appearance. While the girls suggest they can help him evade the royal guard if they catch up, Ryu firmly states that he cannot have slaves as it would hinder his progress. Despite their willingness to protect him, Ryu insists that the girls can only follow him of their own free will. However, this declaration takes an unexpected turn, as the girls interpret it as an order and bow down to Ryu. Realizing the misunderstanding, Ryu asks them to reconsider the situation, highlighting the importance of their choice in joining him on this journey. As he grapples with his own internal struggles, the dynamics between Ryu and the two girls become increasingly complex. He mentions that he'll eventually have to return to his world, and it's crucial for the girls to be free by then. Rora responds, expressing willingness to serve him until his departure. Suddenly, the girls devise a plan to convince Ryu to take them to Earth, celebrating enthusiastically. Ryu, however, doesn't find it cute, considering his responsibilities with Asuka in his world. Imagining the chaos of returning with two additional girls, Ryu envisions Asuka's mixed reactions and the potential consequences. This dream sequence prompts him to wake up, realizing it was all in his mind. Looking at the girls beside him, he decides it's better to stick with them to avoid suspicion and acknowledges the benefits of having slave girls. Focused on crossing the border, he heads to the guild the next day to sell the girls' slave jewelry. To his surprise, Ryu is offered an impressive 3,000 gold coins for the jewelry, leaving him astonished. The receptionist assumes he's dissatisfied with the reward, unaware of Ryu's disbelief at his unexpected fortune. The receptionist explains that 3,000 gold coins is the best offer if Ryu sells all the jewelry together. Despite being content with the amount, he senses a sly smile on the receptionist's face, indicating he may have been tricked into selling his treasure cheaply. Unable to undo the transaction, he accepts the money and leaves the guild. Later, Ryu reveals he managed to sneak 2 rings into his pocket during the exchange and gives them to the girls. Now focused on crossing the border, the trio faces a challenge. Princess Shaldina has arrived, implementing extensive border patrol. Ryu reflects that dealing with a simple blockade would have been easier, as he could have bribed someone to pass. However, with the princess personally overseeing matters, bribery becomes an impractical option. Rora and Sarah caution against opposing the princess, fearing severe consequences for treason. Recognizing the need to move while avoiding detection, Ryu contemplates alternative routes. Staying in one place is not an option as they are being hunted. He engages his strategic thinking once again, aiming to find a new path for himself and the girls. With the eastern border blocked, the only alternative is the town's main route. This option would lead them through the northern forest, although Ryu acknowledges that it might be precisely what the princess expects him to do. Putting himself in her shoes, he contemplates potential counterattacks. Despite the risk of traps, Ryu decides to take a chance and opt for the northern forest. With determination, he prepares himself and his harem for the journey, intending to demonstrate to the princess that he's the hunter, not the hunted. Meanwhile, Princess Shaldina is seen strategizing with her soldiers, confirming Ryu's suspicions. Studying the map, she deduces that the only viable escape route is through the northern forest. Saito, her assistant, questions the effectiveness of setting traps without knowing the suspect's appearance. However, the princess is confident that Ryu will reveal himself according to her plan. She possesses a method to detect if someone is from another world, which she believes will be the key to capturing him. As night falls, Ryu relaxes by the trees in the northern forest. Suddenly, he detects something suspicious and readies his sword. It turns out to be Shaldina's assistant, Saito, but Ryu remains cautious, not recognizing him. Refusing permission to sit, Ryu remains guarded. Saito inquires about Ryu's presence in the forest at that hour, suggesting it's typically adventurers who venture there. Ryu explains he heard about the closed border in Aru, prompting him to take this path. He's also shown heating food, but he makes it clear he won't share it with Saito. The assistant expresses displeasure at Ryu's decision and warns him about the dangers of traversing the forest alone, citing the presence of wild wolves and dogs. Ryu, straightforward as ever, questions Sato's own solo venture into the forest and demands to know his identity. Saito proudly reveals that he is the assistant captain of the Succubus Knights, prompting Ryu to offer him some food. As they share the meal, Saito discloses that he is pursuing a man in the forest but is unaware of the man's appearance. This revelation makes Ryu uneasy, and his caution deepens when Saito insists he accompany him back to camp. Recognizing a direct confrontation won't solve anything, Ryu reluctantly agrees to go with him. Returning to Princess Shaldina, Saito informs her of the capture, claiming that Ryu shares the same scent as the mysterious man they seek. Shaldina, pleased with her assistant captain, has Ryu restrained in shackles to create the appearance of a proper prisoner. Saito notifies Ryu that the princess is ready to meet him, though Ryu finds the shackles excessive. Despite the circumstances, Ryu remains unperturbed, confident that his innocence will eventually secure his freedom. He wears a sly grin, hinting at hidden strategies. However, Princess Shaldina's emergence from the tent adds a layer of caution to Ryu's demeanor. She informs him that his innocence hinges on his actions, setting the stage for what lies ahead. As Shaldina exchanges glances with Saito, she expresses gratitude to Ryu for his cooperation and apologizes for his confinement. Ryu, pleasantly surprised by the princess's appearance, assures her it's not a problem, citing the potential suspicion of finding someone in the forest at that hour. The princess, seemingly unfazed by Ryu's unconventional behavior, dismisses any suspicion surrounding his presence. She reveals that she now recognizes him as the outsider from another world. Ryu attempts to feign ignorance, but Shaldina sees through his act. The giveaway was his failure to respond to her with the expected deference shown to royalty in their world. In this society, Ryu should have bowed and treated the princess as if she were a superior. His failure to do so confirmed his otherworldly origins. Saito revels in the success of the princess's plan, but Ryu remains composed, seemingly untroubled by the revelation. Ryu inadvertently discloses his identity to Princess Shaldina, and his name triggers recognition in Saito, who, being Japanese himself, realizes they share a common origin. Curious about Sato's situation, Ryu inquires if he, too, was summoned to this world. Confirming Ryu's suspicion, Saito reveals that he arrived a decade ago. However, the princess, uninterested in their conversation, instructs them to remain silent. Shaldina plans to transfer Ryu back to the captain for further consideration. Ryu expresses gratitude, but the princess sees potential in him as a valuable fighter for the kingdom. Despite his initial weakness upon summoning, Ryu demonstrated impressive combat skills by defeating knights and even Gaietsu himself. Shaldina sees his strength as an asset, but Ryu dismisses the idea with laughter, urging her to stop joking. The princess, surprised by Ryu's response, notes that summoned individuals are expected to obey their summoners. Saito, sensing that Ryu is unfazed and unafraid, becomes confused. Anticipating the arrival of more soldiers, Shaldina believes they will be strong enough to handle Ryu. Saito, concerned for Ryu's well-being, decides to intervene, interrupting the princess in the midst of her conversation. Saito, attempting to prioritize expediency, shocks Princess Shaldina by suggesting they eliminate Ryu immediately, going against the king's order to bring him back alive. The princess, taken aback, considers this a betrayal of a direct royal command, a cardinal sin. Drawing his sword in front of Shaldina adds another layer of offense, but Saito, undeterred, is willing to face punishment for his actions. As Saito prepares to strike, he grants Ryu the opportunity for final words, acknowledging their shared Japanese background. Ryu, however, confidently declines the chance, leaving Saito puzzled by his bravery. The expected confrontation takes an unexpected turn when Ryu declares that he won't be the one defeated today. A powerful wind attack charges in, targeting Shaldina, but Saito rushes to her rescue, shielding her from the magical assault. Saito apologizes for his actions, and the princess, unharmed, accepts his explanation. Perplexed by the magical nature of the attack, Saito turns to see Sarah, accompanied by her master. Sarah swiftly frees Ryu from his shackles, and he expresses gratitude for her remarkable move that spared him. Saito, confused by the sudden turn of events, questions if Sarah is Ryu's comrade. However, Sarah playfully complicates matters by referring to herself as Ryu's slave, introducing an awkward atmosphere for everyone involved. Saito is left bewildered by the unexpected turn of events, struggling to comprehend both Ryu's abilities and the presence of Sarah and Rora. Ryu, however, expresses concern for Rora's safety as she initially remains unseen. Sarah assures him that Rora has successfully dealt with the other soldiers. Rora soon appears, announcing the completion of her mission. She recounts how the soldiers were caught off guard by the magic attack, leaving Saito in a helpless position. The revelation of Ryu having two cute girls as companions who can wield magic takes Saito by surprise. In this world, magic users are highly esteemed, and by aligning with the king, they gain knight status instantly. The rarity of magic abilities makes each user a formidable force, equivalent to an entire mortal army. Despite Shaldina's defeat, her curiosity persists, and she inquires about the identity of the girls. Unfazed, Sarah and Rora assert that anyone opposing their master becomes their enemy. Shaldina and Saito are both intrigued by the girls' loyalty and magical prowess. They question why such charming girls have chosen to serve a man like Ryu. Ryu, however, deflects the inquiry, suggesting they retreat since they are no match in their current state. Contrary to Ryu's advice, the girls propose eliminating Shaldina and Saito, foreseeing fame and recognition for taking down royal figures, an act that brings instant notoriety in the kingdom. As Saito panics, he contemplates the use of his skills to confront Ryu and the girls. Realizing the futility of winning such a battle, he searches for a way to protect Princess Shaldina. Unexpectedly, Ryu declares his unwillingness to fight either Shaldina or Saito. While confident in their ability to prevail, Ryu recognizes the potential for casualties with even a single misstep. He acknowledges the willingness of both the girls and Saito to sacrifice for their respective masters. Opting for a more diplomatic approach, Ryu decides to spare Shaldina and Saito's lives. Sarah and Rora, astonished at their master's consideration, blush at being accorded the same value as nobles. Observing Ryu's gesture, Princess Shaldina advises Saito to sheath his sword, and Ryu expresses gratitude for her sensible decision. Ready to depart with his slave girls, Ryu is interrupted by Saito, who curiously questions if Ryu is part of some mafia gang in Japan. Ryu, finding the notion amusing, clarifies that he's just a 16-year-old high school student. Saito, feeling a sense of insult at losing to a mere student, demands honesty and wonders why Ryu, from a peaceful era in Japan, took the lives of so many people without remorse. Princess Shaldina is surprised by Sato's passionate inquiry, but Ryu has a response ready. Ryu straightforwardly informs Saito that he hasn't relinquished his right to self-defense against those seeking to harm him. He taunts Saito, questioning if he should have just taken the blows from the soldiers without retaliating. Ryu emphasizes his principle of only striking back when provoked, channeling his sensei's energy and expressing readiness to fight when he intends to take a life. However, sensing discomfort in the girls, Ryu decides it's not the time to delve into his life philosophy. Leaving with his slave girls, Ryu leaves Saito speechless. The princess, though, warns that her empire will soon unite the continent, leaving Ryu with nowhere to hide. Unfazed, Ryu retorts that he'll return to his world before such a scenario unfolds. This open insult prompts Ryu to exit the forest with his slave girls. As time passes, they encounter a vast desert near a trading zone. Their destination is the oasis, where they plan to stock up on goods. Ryu is prepared, but the girls caution him about a giant sandworm that emerges, signaling potential danger ahead. Facing the formidable sandworm, our hero, Ryu, finds the situation challenging. However, things take an unexpected turn when the monstrous creature turns its back on him. Ryu interprets this as a direct challenge and decides to demonstrate his prowess. Cautioning the girls to stand back, he contemplates a plan. Ryu suspects the sandworm's actions may be a ploy to provoke him into an angry response, allowing the creature to counterattack and gain the upper hand. Recognizing the desert setting is advantageous for the sandworm, Ryu aims to catch it off guard. Instructing Sarah and Rora to assist, Ryu acknowledges the challenge of the sandworm's vision but remains confident, counting on the numerical advantage with the two girls by his side. The trio engages in battle, successfully defeating the sandworm after a brief struggle. Despite their victory, Ryu hesitates to deliver the final blow, as it goes against his style. The slave girls suggest that absorbing the beast's energy is a unique skill humans possess in this world. Intrigued, Ryu contemplates finishing off the sandworm with his sword, drawing a parallel to a video game he played in his hometown, though he can't recall the specific name of the move. Overwhelmed by the situation and longing to return to Tokyo, our hero arrives at the trading zone and encounters a high-level magician named Anna Maria. Desperate for a way back to Earth, Ryu's hopes are dashed when Anna Maria reveals that no such method exists in this world. This revelation hits Ryu hard, especially considering the 2 months he spent crossing the desert to reach this point. Determined not to let his efforts go to waste, he implores Anna Maria for help, having heard that she might know of a way. Anna Maria, unsure how to respond, begins explaining the 3 types of magic in this world. The first is martial arts magic, affecting only the user without any chanting. Then comes word magic, requiring a pre-chant and the offering of prana energy to a deity, spirit, or demon to perform supernatural acts. The third type is confer magic, involving placing a seal on a weapon and channeling the user's prana to it. Anna Maria emphasizes that of these 3, only word magic can be used for summoning people. To summon a person, the user must give away their prana energy to the god of their world. Ryu is left grappling with the realization that the path back to Tokyo is not as straightforward as he had hoped. Anna Maria explained that summoning people from Ryu's world to hers was easy for the people in her world because they knew the god to whom they needed to send their prana energy. However, sending someone back to Earth posed a challenge because they didn't know the god of Ryu's world. The summoner required the permission of the god ruling the destination world. Ryu, overwhelmed by this information, put his mind to work. He inquired if knowing the god's name was sufficient, to which Anna Maria affirmed. Relieved, Ryu realized he already knew the names of some Earth gods and could ask other humans in this world for their gods' names. Sarah and Rora offered to find texts containing such information. Despite the optimistic plan, Anna Maria dropped a bombshell. She unveiled a chained book containing the writings of previous humans who, like Ryu, had wanted to return to Earth. Unfortunately, none of the god names they provided were useful. The situation was further disheartening as Anna Maria disclosed that the book had undergone hundreds of years of editing. Despite assumptions about Anna Maria's capability to send Ryu back to Earth, rumors stemmed from her possession of the seemingly useless book. Ryu could only express defeat upon realizing that, despite centuries of editing, not a single correct god name had been identified. Anna Maria remarked that this was precisely why she initially claimed inability to assist him and sarcastically labeled him lucky for his competence, provoking anger in Ryu. The sudden change in Ryu's demeanor raised concerns among the girls, who had never witnessed him lose his composure before, whether saving them from the Red Moon bandits or when captured by Princess Shaldina. Rora explained to Sarah that Ryu was generally a gentle person, though his current anger stemmed from the frustration of being unable to return to his world and the realization that Earth's people were brought to this world as slaves. Rora prompted Sarah to imagine how she would feel if forced into slavery against her will. Sarah's extreme reaction reflected the severity of the situation, illustrating Ryu's emotional turmoil. While being battle slaves wasn't a negative for the girls due to their magical abilities, there were humans who lacked such powers yet were compelled into servitude. The disparity in circumstances added another layer of distress to Ryu's predicament. Rora emphasized that Ryu's concerns extended beyond his own predicament, encompassing all humans forced into unspeakable acts as slaves. This broader perspective, however, raised worries as Ryu's anger had the potential to be unleashed upon this world. The fear was that if his emotions spiraled out of control, he might lose his sanity and wreak havoc. Sarah, rightfully concerned, noticed Ryu's unresponsiveness towards his slave girls, coupled with a 2-day self-imposed isolation in his room, during which he hadn't consumed a single bite. In his room, Ryu grappled with his troubling situation. Suddenly, he found himself in a mysterious void, questioning his whereabouts. A strange voice reached out to him, urging him to embrace anger. Despite Ryu's demand to reveal itself, the voice claimed to be an understanding entity. Puzzled, Ryu was asked about his deepest desire, to which he expressed the simple wish to return to Asuka and his sensei. The voice, now revealing itself as an overpowering entity, explained that Ryu's desires could be fulfilled through the right sacrifice. It posed a simple condition: Ryu needed to unleash his anger. The entity questioned who was responsible for the current situation, and Ryu identified Gyetsu as the culprit. The mysterious entity revealed itself as a demonic soul and disclosed that the distortion in the world extended beyond Gyetsu. It explained that those who originally created this world were the true problem, using people from Earth to fulfill their twisted fantasies. The entity encouraged Ryu to reclaim what was rightfully his, even if it meant resorting to taking lives and committing unspeakable acts against the kingdom's inhabitants. Claiming that Ryu had the power to single-handedly destroy the entire world, the demonic soul offered to take over his body. As Ryu seemed on the verge of succumbing to the dark side, the girls intervened just in time. Bursting into his room, they prevented the demon from further manipulating Ryu, bringing him back to reality. Confused, Ryu found himself in the presence of his slave girls, who explained that he had been screaming for a while, leaving them with no choice but to break into the room. The girls' timely intervention prevented Ryu from succumbing to the demonic influence, and they expressed their joy at seeing their master by engulfing his face in their curvy bodies. Amidst the overwhelming affection, Ryu had to remind the girls that he needed to breathe. Graciously allowing him a moment away from their enthusiastic embrace, Rora urged her master to eat since he hadn't consumed anything since isolating himself in his room. Ryu, finally breaking free from a troubling vision, surveys his surroundings and notices that his door lies in ruins. The girls, realizing they had no alternative, apologize for breaking it down, explaining that if they hear their master in distress, they will go to any lengths to ensure his safety. Accepting their actions, Ryu suggests they could have asked the owner for a master key instead. Rora and Sarah playfully feign innocence, admitting they hadn't considered that option. Heading to the owner, Ryu requests some food, surprising her with his just-awakened state. Despite her initial shock, she promptly provides him with a generous serving of stew. Ryu, astonished by the portion size, questions the owner, considering it ample even for his hearty appetite. To his surprise, she reveals the food isn't just for him but also for the 2 slave girls. Discovering that Rora and Sarah, like him, had abstained from eating for 2 days, Ryu is taken aback. Urged by the owner to return to them quickly, Ryu expresses gratitude for the meal. However, she dismisses thanks, emphasizing it's merely her business practice. Furthermore, she informs Ryu that she intends to charge him for the broken door, refusing any acknowledgement for the provided food. Ryu hurries back to the room, announcing that it's time for them to eat together. Unfortunately, he walks in on the girls changing their clothes, leading to an awkward moment. Despite the discomfort, they all sit down for their meal, and Ryu, taken aback by what he saw, finds it difficult to say anything. The girls notice Ryu's silent discomfort and encourage him to calm his anger, expressing concern for his well-being. Ryu apologizes for causing them worry, but the girls assure him it's not an issue. They affirm their loyalty, stating that it's okay for Ryu to be angry at the world. They will always stand by his side. Despite their well-meaning intentions, Ryu dismisses them as foolishly blind. Worried that they've upset him further, the girls try to comfort him. However, Ryu seems to be enduring some internal pain. Despite attempting to express gratitude by bowing down, the girls sense he's holding back his true feelings. They encourage him to open up, but Ryu, always trying to maintain an adult facade, finds their teasing rather than helpful. Unimpressed, he tells them not to laugh at him. The worst seems to be behind for our hero as he resumes battling monsters and reaping rewards. Confronting a giant monster, he contemplates the need to collect its bodily fluids. Amidst his adventures, the girls question why Ryu persists in taking on missions when he already possesses Azusa's wealth, suggesting he could relax instead. Perplexed, Ryu doesn't recall who Azusa is until the girls remind him of their previous master, the overweight man. Ryu's response is straightforward. He lacks a family, home, or friends to return to, and the only person he can rely on is himself. Continuing as an adventurer serves as both a distraction and a search for purpose. Rora speculates whether it's a philosophical pursuit for humans, but Ryu likens it more to a warrior's desire for self-improvement. Despite having learned valuable skills from his sensei, Ryu acknowledges that his power alone won't suffice, and the tricks he acquired help him survive. To Ryu's surprise, Rora assures him that he's not truly alone in this world, as she and Sarah provide him with company. Apologizing to the girls, Ryu expresses gratitude for their presence, even though it deviates from their expectations. The trio's journey continues through various challenges, leading them to a new port town. While exploring, they encounter Vals, the guild master who had extended a personal invitation to Ryu. Upon reaching the guild, Vals surprises them with a compulsory quest, raising their eyebrows. Ryu had suspected something unusual about the invitation, and now he questions Vals about the mandatory nature of the quest, typically reserved for high-ranking adventurers. Vals confesses that it's not the standard procedure, but he finds himself in a difficult situation with a lack of skilled individuals. The mission is urgent, involving escorting merchants to another kingdom. Despite Rora questioning the consequences of refusal, Vals warns that declining could lead to the suspension or revocation of Ryu's guild license. To sweeten the deal, he promises a generous reward, provides mercenaries for assistance, and offers top-notch equipment for the journey. Initially inclined to accept, Ryu's enthusiasm wanes as he sets eyes on the disappointing carriage they'll be using for the mission. In the midst of their mission, a new character named Leone, a mercenary hired for protection, emerges. She expresses concern about the suspicious nature of the quest, as the merchants they are supposed to guard don't have any cargo. Leone admits she's only in it for the pay and worries that the mission might already be a failure. She greets Ryu and introduces her one-armed assistant, Bowles. As the merchants appear, shock registers on their faces upon seeing their protection team composed of girls and a one-armed man. Unimpressed with the merchant leader, Masara, Ryu's discomfort is evident. Rora explains Masara's role as the client Vals mentioned. Masara, a portly figure, reveals a shady side upon seeing Rora and Sarah, identifying them as female battle slaves. He makes an inappropriate offer to find them new masters, believing they'd be better suited for the bedroom than the battlefield. Ryu, disapproving of Masara's tone, decides to showcase his skills in a playful manner. Taking an unconventional approach, Ryu offers Masara a shoulder massage, asserting that it's a mistake to let a martial artist get behind him so easily. Sarah, oblivious to Ryu's intentions, remains unaware of the potential danger. To emphasize his point, Ryu explains that a genuinely dangerous man may not appear threatening at first glance. Sarah, failing to grasp the concept, dismisses Ryu as a well-behaved individual with a smart upbringing. Ryu appreciates the compliment but asserts that Sarah is transparent and easy to read. In a somewhat unsettling move, Ryu wraps his hands around Masara's neck, questioning if the merchant is attempting to deceive him. Though Sarah becomes fearful, Ryu releases him, leaving the matter for the time being. As night falls, Ryu gathers the team and shares his suspicion that Sarah is lying about the mission, likely setting a trap. Leone becomes intrigued, and Ryu explains that he sensed a change in Masara's pulse during the massage. Leone questions Ryu's decision to almost choke Sarah, and he clarifies that it was a response to the merchant's disrespectful comments about his slave girls. The challenge now is to understand the true target and the nature of the impending trap. Bowles suggests canceling the quest, but Leone explains that's not feasible. Canceling due to suspicion isn't a valid reason. Reluctantly, the team must proceed with the plan, as the guild could suspend or revoke their licenses if things go awry. The impending danger looms, and the team must navigate the mission with caution. Ryu's thoughts about the guild and its operations trigger suspicions. He contemplates the possibility of someone manipulating events from the shadows. Masara's initial lie adds to the uncertainty, raising the suspicion that he might be a spy. Ryu realizes he could be the target, given the deliberately appealing carriage. When Leone suggests calling more help from her Crimson Lion gang, Ryu declines, seeing it as his personal problem to resolve without risking more lives. Despite Leone's shock, she laughs, torn between thinking Ryu is either remarkably kind or outright foolish. Playing along, she jests about being a secret assassin along with Bowles, assigned to take Ryu's life. Unfazed, Ryu accepts the risk. Now faced with the challenge of controlling the carriage, he turns to Sarah for assistance. Sarah responds playfully, expressing her willingness to follow his orders without prompting, adding a touch of humor to the tense situation. Sarah's ambiguous words create an awkward moment for Ryu, prompting him to shift focus by asking Bowles about his magical abilities. The girls express their interest in the plan, highlighting their own magical capabilities. However, Ryu appears to have different thoughts on his mind. As night falls, Leone approaches Ryu, sharing her perspective that he might not be the main target. Perhaps the merchants are after her as the leader of a renowned mercenary group. Despite being fine with this revelation, Ryu maintains a respectful tone towards Leone. However, she, in a playful manner, encourages him to drop the formality, expressing her interest in making him her lover. As she leans in for a kiss, the atmosphere heats up, but Rora and Sarah intervene to prevent Leone's advances, declaring their protective stance over their master. Despite Leone's attempt to justify her actions as just a kiss, the girls remain adamant about avoiding surprises. Unperturbed, Leone suggests an alternative approach, leaving the scene with an air of anticipation. The unfolding dynamics raise questions about what will happen next, and whether Sarah and Rora will join Leone in their unconventional endeavor. Don't forget to hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe to stay tuned for the exciting continuation in Part 3. Make sure to ring that bell icon for notifications so you won't miss it. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.